TV. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Hello, friends, and thank you always for joining us for another live broadcast. We have a exciting show lined up for you this evening. We will be continuing our monthly, sometimes bi-monthly, Ask Me Anything series, which we are, I believe, moving to the 50 episodes or so, thereabouts. But as always, it's a great pleasure to be here with you and to field your inquiries and to answer all the things that and give you chance also to ask us anything that you might want to know about in regard to our work and the prophecies, scriptures, conspiracies, world events, whatever it may be. And Joy, are you with us?
Joy is not with you tonight. She's actually taking the night off, so I'll be filling in
Oh, okay.
her
All right.
place.
Well, Justin will be with us this evening. Okay. Well, great. I'm glad to be here with you, son. Always a pleasure to share broadcasting time and space with you, and looking forward to the show.
Yeah, this is the 75th episode that
75th.
you
Okay,
have
I was a
done.
little bit off.
Yeah, just 50% off. No big deal.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah, it's been a long time that you've been doing that. I guess this will be your 150th hour of Ask Me Anythings tonight.
Wow.
That's a lot of answering questions, and I know a lot of people do have great questions to ask. So definitely looking forward to getting into these. We made the we made the pre-made list of questions a little bit shorter. We only have 10 questions on the pre-made list because we wanted to do more interaction with the live chat. So the Matrix Squared, I see you posted your question in the
Great
chat. I
idea.
got yours on the list. And if you do have a question, please feel free to share it there in the chat on the live stream at youtube.com/Zen Garcia. It's great to see everyone. And yeah, before we get to the pre-made question list, I know we had a few people email us about the calendar, and I wanted to bring forth. There were a couple questions that did come up. First, of course, if you have purchased the 2023 calendar and you compare it to the 2022 calendar, you might be a little confused when you go from the end of December to the beginning of January because it's the month is different. The Hebrew month is different, and then also the date count is different. So I assume Rosh Chodesh was a little different than we had forecasted for that month. So wanted to get your commentary on what's going on with the calendar and also the importance of people understanding how to observe and see the
Yes.
Kodeshes and the counts themselves.
Yes, great questions, and thank you. And I was actually going to start with that too, so I'm glad you brought it out. But for everybody in regard to the lunar calendar, it's almost impossible to forecast a entire year out just because of the average time of the synodic month. It's 29.541 days, which skews it and gives us eventually two 30-day months back to back, which will throw off the timing of when Kadesh occurs, which is why we take the opportunity to present two calendars a year in January for the Gregorian, also in March for the seasonal, because we do believe that that is when the true, as far as the God's calendar begins with the linear progression of spring, summer, fall, winter, the occurrence of the equinoxes and solstices are when the timing of the seasons actually begin. And so that's another reason why I wanted and will, if going forth, try to wait till closer to January just so I can know exactly when the timing of Kadesh is going to occur and then align accordingly. Because if I don't do that, it makes it very difficult to, look ahead. But anyways, with regard to the calendar this year and the adjustment and the reason why it is skewed from the previous is because at the beginning of the year, this year, there was the possibility and everybody was in limbo with regard to whether we were going to need the second month of Adar for the 13th month to adjust and align with the barley feasts that were occurring in Israel. And so that determination was still being played out when I was in work and trying to do the calendar. And there was two witnesses for and two witnesses against as far as that particular timing. And so as we moved further in the year, I felt like, and according to my friends that are also a lot more schooled and have been doing the calendar, both Diane and Troy Miller, who will be presenting and publishing a couple books on the creation calendar very soon. They've been doing this for 20 plus years. And for myself, it was in 2015 and decrypting the book of Enoch and the courses of the heavenly luminaries that I was able to see in doing that work that the book of Enoch was speaking about how the heavens created a clockwork system and how that clockwork system unfolded to give us a 354-day lunar calendar and a 364-day seasonal summer sun calendar. And you had to integrate these or intercalate, as they say, these two calendars with the 13th month, Adar 2, every once, every usually 3 years or so, according to the metatonic cycle. It's like 7 years out of 19. But anyways, and so I felt like as we progressed through the year that this is something that I should have done with this year. And so in presenting and bringing forth this new one, that's what I did. But if, again, if the accuracy is not exact by the time of March, I will know and I will be able to amend. But with regard to the calendar, I never claim it to be perfect, and we are just providing it as a tool in order for those of you that are interested in knowing how the calendar works and how it unfolds according to the Gregorian, that you would have something to go by. But we ask all of you to go out and to cite the waxing crescent and the appearance of the new moon or Kadesh for yourself. Because also we're here in the East Coast, United States of America. And if you are in a different part of the world, it will be varied for you, especially if you're in southern latitudes, Australia, Brazil, or the outer perimeter of what is the circle of the earth. And so while we do present this as, something that you can have, that you can follow, that you can look at daily, and that you can become familiar with how the Sabbaths do align with the phases of the moon, we want more than anything for you not to be dependent on us, but, to look at the calendar, get familiar with it. But more than anything, go out with yourself, your children, look to the heavens, look to Yahuwah for guidance on how things are going to unfold, and confirm for yourself the appearance of that waxing crescent, because it is the indicator. It is what is called the time of the new moon, the head of the month, Rosh Kodesh, and it sets the following 4 sabbatical weeks, and it will set those Sabbaths according to the phases of the moon. And so that's the importance of the calendar, is so that you can get used to doing this. And I know it's sometimes difficult because of the weather. If it's cloudy or rainy or snowy or whatever the case may be, may not be able to cite for yourself. There is a website that we have posted and linked to, and I'll make it available again here, which people from all over the country do reach out to this particular website. And I forget the exact name, but I will look it up and share it in the chat. But it will give you confirming witness as to, the visual, the eyewitness of people in different parts of the United States, as well as all over the world. There are people reaching out and sharing when they see and have eyewitness of the the appearance of the waxing crescent, and that way we're able to learn and to familiarize ourselves with how the true calendar unfolds, because the Gregorian, as you know, has 28-day months in February, also 31-day months and 30-day months, and during a leap year it'll have a 29-day month. But the true calendar alternates with these 29 and 30-day cycles. But as I said, because the synodic month is extended more than averagely just 29.5 days, with the 29.541 days, that little bit adds up additionally over time and will give us the 30-day lunar back-to-back months, which is interesting how it does all that. But I believe that the Most High made it that way and put in that slight deviation in order to keep everybody on their toes with regard to the calendar, and so that we would also still see the mystery in the heavens and not know exactly the timing of the day or the hour, but that we have to look to the witness of the stars, look to the heavens, look to the clockwork system that he put into the skies in order to learn and to follow and to determine when the Sabbaths and also true Levitical feast days actually occur. And so that's why you'll see when we get down to the end of a yearly calendar, the adjustments for that will skew it at the end. And again, I'm myself still learning all these things, and I know there's probably those of you out there that are more familiar and probably more well versed and more knowledgeable on the calendar than I am. But I am trying to do what I can to give you something, those especially those of you that are new and have not heard of and are trying to walk this out in your own study, and to have something to actually see visually, because I do believe that the calendar and the placement and the way that we have it um, broke down with the Gregorian calendar, that in looking at it daily, you'll learn, um, just how everything unfolds and when to look for the waxing crescent for yourself. And then when seeing it, to determine then, okay, this day we see like the 24th. And then, accordingly, you can, every 7 days thereafter with the phases of the moon, you'll know when Sabbath occurs. And so, so that's why there is that skewing and also discrepancy for those that are reaching out. And as I said, I will revisit very soon and look at just to make sure that what putting out is connected to what is really happening. And as I said, I really should have waited till the first of the Kadesh and the sighting and the occurrence of it for this month, but I was just trying to get it out for those of you that are trying to have it in place before the beginning of January. And so um, we are learning as we go. But if anybody has any other questions, I thought that I would do a show on this very soon as well. Maybe even possibly tomorrow if we're supposed to have a show with Dr. Pigeon, but if that falls through, then perhaps I will change and fill it in with this one, and we can answer questions for those of you that are out there as well and that are interested in this topic.
Actually, Brother Brett Lee Thomas is going to be joining tomorrow night to continue the Mystery Babylon series.
Okay,
yeah,
I thought Dr. Pigeon was on.
Yeah, that one did fall through due to the time difference
So
in the UK and Alaska and here. So, but
yeah,
definitely our apologies as well for everyone who considered the calendar that's then put together as gospel. We just have to be grateful to the Most High that He reads the intentions of our hearts, because that additional month did throw everything off, right? It would have thrown all of the feast days and everything off. So definitely our apologies for that. And it really is just kind of a tool and not a guide. So great to look at it that way. But definitely been seeing a lot of great questions in the chat. So I want to go ahead and move straight into the pre-made list and get these knocked out while we can. So first question comes from Stephanie. Zen, since Israel numbers all the days of a month, is it possible that there's only one seventh day in every lunar cycle?
I don't believe so. And the reason I say this with regard to the Shabbats is that there's a reason why the moon was made to unfold as it does. And I, without a doubt, in reading and studying the book on the courses of the heavenly luminaries and the writings of Enoch, as shown to him by the archangel Uriel, who explained all these movements and made sure that he understood all these things, so that in relating, we would, in that manner, also understand that the Sabbaths are, again, in my opinion, aligned with the appearance of the waxing crescent, determined by that, and then synchronized to the quarterly phases of the moon. And the moon has these 7-day cycles specifically for that determination, in my opinion. And also, we see that when you look at and examine, especially in Diane's book, which she brings out hundreds of sources in Yahweh's unique timepiece explained, where she writes about all of this. She has hundreds of sources that confirm that it is with the appearance of the waxing crescent that Kadesh is determined, and that also that it is on the full moon that we celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread in the month of Nisan, and also the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, in the month of Tishri, in the 7th month. And so, that, in my opinion, can only remain true if you are following this particular calendar. And as we showed also, that with the march on Jericho, that according to the book of Jasher, I believe it's chapter 88, it specifies that Joshua and the Israelites began their march on what was the Kadesh of the second month, and that because of that, they were able to march 7 days, because you march on Kadesh and then you have the 6 working days leading up to the first Sabbath, which is the 8th day of every lunar month. And so otherwise, Yahuwah would have been breaking his own law and his own commandment and his own Sabbath in order to command them to do so. And it also shows you that the Israelites during the Exodus were following the lunar Enochian lunar solar calendar, and even the heavenly manna and how it came down in double portion on the 6th day. This also is connected to the lunar calendar and the unfolding of the cycle in the way that we're relating it and explaining it. And so, um, yeah, so even though, yeah, they number the days of the month, Sabbath is something different.
All right. Next question comes from Mickey McD. What do you think of the Jewish Messiah Yanaka Rav Shlomo Yehuda?
I don't really have any idea. I don't even know who that really is, and so I can't really comment further.
I guess in generic, what do you think about all of the Jewish messiahs that are coming about in Israel?
Well, I think that they have denied the true Messiah, and that the one that they will serve, according to some of the scriptures, the apocalyptic texts, especially the apocalypse of Peter, the apocalypse of uh, Elijah, that they are going to bow and serve the Antichrist, and that they are deceived in that manner to do so. And unfortunately, the Pharisees and the rabbis of the time of the true Messiah, they knowingly denied and knowingly hid the truth. And because of that, the Israelites as a nation, as a people, have been led astray. And it's unfortunate because many of them are innocent in their ignorance and are only, they're indoctrinated into the belief and into the the denial. And it's unfortunate because the scriptures tell us that if you deny him, he shall deny you. Um, and so that's, a terrible situation to be in my opinion, is to deny the true Messiah. And anybody that really looks in detail as to prophetically how he fulfilled the many prophecies, even those that were just penned in Isaiah and Malachi and other places by the Old Testament prophets, it's undeniable. And then when you read like the Archica volume, which is a eyewitness to his coming, and that Gamaliel and others that were, part of those that were in charge and control of the Pharisees during the time of the coming of the Messiah, they have eyewitness account. Even, of the shepherds in Bethlehem and the people in Bethlehem, and how all of them witnessed the angels who came down to celebrate his incarnation into mortal form, which is the highlight of the world, this world age, and the highlight of human civilization, history, prophecy. It was the culmination. It was the prophetic fulfillment of God coming into flesh. And so, and not only coming into flesh, but purposely, he had the role, the mission to be Savior Messiah to die on the on the cross to crush the head of the serpent, as was prophesied in Genesis 3:15. And so, even though the witness of the stars, the Mazzaroth, speak of the virgin birth, the immaculate conception of the Messiah, and that he would come in and he would crush the head of the serpent seed, as we have talked about in great deal on this channel as well. And so, if you're still on the fence with regard to the Messiah and the prophetic fulfillments, please check out the Archico volume. It will change your life to read it. It will touch you deeply and move you in your faith and your understanding of truth. Because it is one of those witnesses from that time that is undeniable when you begin to examine and look into this in a deep manner.
All right, thank you. The next question comes from Lisa Keon. My son recently passed away. Son, our condolences. This is a rather long introduction and then question as well, so I'll try to read it pretty quickly. My son initially went missing in May, and my sensitivities helped me to track and find him in another country. I had several experiences while trying to locate my son where he came to me spiritually, and that's why and how I was able to find him. Otherwise, he would have been a John Doe, and we would have never recovered his body. Since we've laid him to rest, my sensitivity to the spirit realm has increased, and I'm told by some that this is not something that's from Yah. And yet, it's not something that I'm controlling or that I choose to happen. I've begun to embark on Reiki healing practices, including learning about crystal energy and healing. I'm curious to understand and know about whether doing practices such as Reiki energy healing or using crystals are something that we should or should not do as believers.
First, definitely, we send our condolences to you, sister, and to your family, and to whatever you may have had to endure. I can't even imagine or say or bring out the words to bring you comfort in what you've gone through. But with regard to these things, it's more, and don't listen to what people say and to their judgments on what is happening in your life, because I think that the Most High uses people in a way, in a manner, and selects people and gives them, um, sensitivities, as you call it, to the spirit realm in ways that we don't understand. And unless you're involved with the occult and you're playing with Ouija boards or things of that nature, well, then, yes, if that is the case, then I would certainly question, and you would know for yourself in your own heart what it is that you are dealing with and where it is that you're getting your spiritual gift. But if you have a pure heart, and if you are a follower of Yahuwah, if you are a disciple of the Most High, uh, it, you know where you are. You know where you are um, placing your prayers, your thoughts, and asking even for the help that you received in locating your son's body, or his location. However all that unfolded, we don't know the details, and I certainly am not going to judge you. I don't know anything about you or your life. um, Again, if you're involved with a cult or anything like that, then certainly you're going to be led down that path and involved with things you might not truly want to be in relationship with. But if you are a pure intent and you are a true believer and you are doing everything you can to to follow the ways of the Messiah, the example of the Messiah, to uh, follow the commandments and to do the will of the kingdom and prioritizing um, the Father's role and commission to all of us, then again, I think that the Most High selects and gives people talents and abilities that um, none of us understands, and everybody is serving the kingdom in different ways. And I think that there are a lot of people that, for whatever reason, they are given the ability to um, engage or have that sensitivity to the spiritual realms. And I certainly um, would not want that kind of power. But if it comes upon you and you are, you have this such capability, what do you do? If you're a servant of the Most High, you're going to try to use your abilities to serve and to help and to do what you can to, and I don't know what the role and what that road looks like, but you're going to have to learn about these things as you move forward. And certainly there are a lot of examples of this kind of thing in the world where people are able to help others, that for whatever reason they're able to bring back messages or share messages. And again, I don't know how that works at all, because in my understanding is that once you are have left the body, you move on to, be with the Most High, and you either go to uh, perdition if you are a non-believer and a hater and a blasphemer, those kind of things, or on to paradise, to New Jerusalem, with the other saints, until and disconnected from this world. But again, I don't claim to understand everything and to have all the answers. Um, but you know where you are, sister, as far as your heart and your love of the Most High and your willingness to do whatever work He is putting before you. With regard to, you said crystals, things of that nature, those are tools. They don't determine your heart. And in my opinion, they're not necessary. Reiki, yes, is um, it's a healing method, and it's just like laying on hands. And also in the higher degrees of Reiki, you learn to heal from afar. But in my opinion, you don't need um, anything but the blessings of the Most High and the work of, like the apostles. They healed in the name of Christ, in the name of the Messiah. And all you need is a prayerful heart and a drive to help in that manner, in my opinion, to do the work that the apostles did in the same way, in healing the sick and using the authority of the name of the Messiah to to conduct and to bring forth such miracles. And in my opinion, if you are choosing yourself to do this work, and you're going to do it, then again, I don't think you need crystals or anything else other than your relationship with the Most High to affect change and to create healing. And all of us, I think we are all blessed intrinsically, inherently, with such power, and that we can pray for each other and one another and affect change and great influence on the lives of others. But because people don't usually uh, live prayerful lives and don't utilize this power that the Most High has given to all of us, um, there are a few that are really living the lives to do this kind of work. And so God bless you if you are led to do this kind of work. I would say be careful in getting involved in things that are new age, or in things that you feel like you need to utilize certain tools, or like crystals. And I'm not saying that crystals are in any manner evil, because they work. They truly do work. Quartz is used to transmit and to receive, even like radio and television signals. So without a doubt, they do amplify energy, and I do believe that they can amplify your intent to heal others. But again, if you are in relationship with the Most High, I don't think that it's necessary that you have tools like that, because you have the Messiah as your tool to affect these kind of changes. And he did give us that authority. Um, and if you are claiming that authority for yourself, then I think that you can do it just by having a deep and communal relationship with the Creator, with the Godhead, with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so, just my opinion. But again, you're going to have to walk this out for yourself, and you're going to learn over the course of your lifetime in doing so what works for you and what doesn't. But again, be careful in any kind of opening any kind of doors to the occult. You want to keep yourself pure, and you want to keep yourself, um, you don't want to open things that you're not familiar with, or that you don't know what you're getting into. Just saying. So, yes, be careful.
Interesting subject. Next question comes from Ryan. Jubilees 2216 has been bothering me and keeping me away from Jubilees altogether. It seems to contradict where Jesus ate with sinners and other New Testament scriptures. Jubilees 2216 seems to be a commandment. Can you please explain it?
Do you possibly have it, or can you pull it up real quick so that we'll know what the individual is talking about?
Let me see if I have a copy of it. I don't have a copy of it on me, do you?
You can just keyword search it, Jubilees chapter 22. I can do it too.
Jubilees 22. It says, "And do thou, my son Jacob, remember my words, and observe the commandment of Abraham thy father. Separate thyself from the nations, and eat not with them, and do not according to their works, and become not their associate. For their works are unclean, and all their ways are pollution, and an abomination and uncleanness."
Um, just from hearing the context of this particular passage, it is my opinion that, again, we see the differentiation of the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, and that Isaac is considered the seed of promise, and that it is Jacob uh, also, and Abraham. We know that the Ishmaelites were also born, and also Esau with Jacob, but that they were considered the seed of the serpent, and that they um, have an enmity between them that plays out even with Rome and the Roman Catholic Church and Israel, and also with the Christians and those that are of the true faith today. And so this, goes back to even the enmity between Cain and Abel that played out through Seth and Cain, when Cain killed his half brother Abel, and Seth, who was brought in as the compensation, the substitution and replacement for Abel, that it was through him that the bloodlines of Adam continued. And so the Gentile nations, they are considered, again, the seed of the serpent, the pagans, those that practice abomination and that worship the fallen angels. And so, in my opinion, yeah, this commandment is something that you find repeated over and over, especially in the primary Adamic literature, the first 10 generations of Adam, that in every every time one of the patriarchs of the Adamic line was to pass away, they would always call forth all of their children around their deathbed, and they would give a testament to them and also explain to them in prophecy what they had seen, that the Most High had shared with them about what they would do and how they would fall away. And they were always warned not to marry or to intermix or to take wives of the daughters of Cain, or to mix with them if they were women, to take husbands. But they were always, there was a prohibition. It wasn't even a choice for them, but they were commanded by the patriarchs of Adam's line to not mix with the children of Cain. And that was a commandment and has always been. And it's only even, until the Gentiles were grafted in with the olive tree, the wild branch, and that the Messiah then, sent Paul to when the Jews and the synagogues rejected him, he was sent to the Gentiles. And Peter received the dream of the unclean, what he thought, because he thought the Gentiles to be unclean. And in receiving the dream of seeing, and, God, Yahuwah saying to him, don't call unclean what he had created. And that was in connection to his going to Cornelius, the Roman centurion, who was converting and was accepting of Christ as the true Messiah. And he was baptized and the Holy Spirit came upon all those people. And so Peter realized, well, who am I to deny these people when clearly the Most High has accepted and allowed them to be part of the promised seed. And so it was at that time that the church and spiritual Israel was opened up even to the pagans and to the Gentiles. But before then, it was always commanded of them to not mix and to not take wives or mix their genealogies with that of the children of first Cain, then Ishmael, then Esau, and on and on.
Next question comes from T.S. Krog. I've never read any of Zen Garcia's books. However, I would like to ask if he has ever considered the possibility that the third of the heavenly host which fell with Satan are us, humanity. I wonder if Yahuwah incarnated us on this prison earth to give us a chance to reconsider our choice of allying ourselves with Satan before he passes final judgment and tosses us into the lake of fire.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've been reading some of my books, because that is one of the things that I say. But with regard to all of humanity, you have to understand that there were three classes with regard to the fall. And the scriptures in the war in heaven, they say that the dragon dragged a third of the stars with him, and that one third was cast out with him. And these were the angels in heaven that were already in angelic embodiment. They said that, these entities, as we know, when they came down, they had a dragon like appearance. They were seraphic, and that they were serpentine. Um, and that these became the gods of the antediluvian age and the antediluvian times. We are not those one third. and nor have we ever been. Those 1/3 are the angelic, what were the sons of God. Um, and even though I do, yes, believe we were there at that time, they are now what is the forces of darkness and legion. They are the demonic realm. And when I say the demonic realm, there are, like the stories and the history of werewolves and vampirism, um, and even reptilian shapeshifters, and all of these are included in what is the demonic class, legion. We are not those entities, but yes, we were part of the sons of God. We were known before the foundations of the world, and we have, and yeah, we are incarnated into flesh form in order to redetermine our allegiance and our alliances, and to serve one or two masters in this lifetime, this incarnation. And so, yes, part of what you say is true. And I do explain all these things specifically in my 7th book, Skyfall, The Angels of Destiny, and also my 6th book, Sons of God, Who We Are, Why We Are Here. I cover all these things in great detail. But one has to understand the war in heaven in our pre-existence and how that is also connected to even the concept of Jacob being favored and Esau hated before they had ever even yet been born as children, to incur either the favor or the wrath of the Most High. How does that make any kind of sense that God would hate a child that had not yet even been born? Um, and vehemently, you have to understand that the war in heaven is what is part of original sin for humanity and the reason why we are incarnating into flesh. And I believe that the as far as the third of the humans, which we are a third of the class of angels, and I believe there's a third that never had to take on human embodiment, that these are the sons like Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Phanuel, the angels of the Most High that serve him now and that never have to embody into flesh form. But there is another portion which, because we did not, in my opinion, side one way or the other, or maybe we were lukewarm, as the scriptures talk about the Laodicean church of this age, that certainly Christ speaks about, remember from whence thou art fallen. And so he is alluding to how we did pre-exist, that our first estate is in heaven, that our bright nature in our glorified form is in our original place of habitation, is there with him. He knew us before the foundations of the world were ever established, and before he knew that humanity would fall, Satan would rebel, that there would even be a war in heaven, that all these things were known, that he would have to come into flesh form in order to redeem us. And so the story is very deep. And yes, those things that you asked about, you can find a great deal of this teaching in the Great Contest One, The War in Heaven, as well, where I explain in great detail a lot of these things as well.
All right, I'll move into the next question. We just have about 5 minutes before break. If we don't
Yeah.
finish it, no big deal. We'll pick it up right after the break. This one comes from Kareen. Hello, my friends. I can't find a video. It was about flat Earth, and Zen was explaining the tides. He was talking about a huge hole in the ocean and how it spits water out and pulls water in as well. Can you help me find this?
Oh goodness, I've covered this so many times, but I would look at any video that I've done on Paradise, the Sides of the North, and the Mount of the Congregation, because that is the third book of the Flat Earth trilogy, and it's in that book that I speak about Rupes Negra, which is the mount, the mount of the congregation in the center of the earth at the North Pole, and that there is the wide maw of what is the bottomless pit or the abysmal chasm. It's called the navel of the earth, and it surrounds this mountain, and it every day sucks and drinks the oceans of the world. And then in 6-hour increments, it reverses course and will then spew out in geyser the waters that it had been swallowing. And that is what leads to and causes the phenomena of both the low and high tides twice a day in unfolding. It used to be faster. This used to occur 6 times during the time of like Odysseus and his travels, because this particular phenomena is also explained in the journey of Odysseus and the Iliad and others. It was called Charbardus, and it was described as a sea monster, but what it was is a whirlpool, which truly does exist at the center of the earth plane surrounding Rupes Negra, and it is again the hole, which the entrance that leads to the hollow earth, the opening to Sheol. That when Lucifer declared, "I will exalt my throne above the stars and the clouds of God," it says, "But instead I shall throw you down to the pit, to the sides of the pit, the sides of the north," which, again, it is the North Pole that both the Mount of the Congregation is located. Also, above Polaris is the throne of the Most High God, where he truly does sit. And Satan, wanting to be like the Most High, he, went to war against the Word and the Godhead and was cast out by Christ. And this is also found in the first book of Adam and Eve in chapter 55. Wherefore, he fell, talking about Satan's fall, and the memory, the remembrance of the angels, and relating this story to Adam and how it all occurred before Adam was even created. And one has to understand that it was on the second day that the angels went to war with the Father and the Son when Christ was called forth as the light of the world, and the division of light and darkness took place. This is when the war in heaven happened. It led to the destruction of the earth, where it became without form and void. And then we see that the earth had to be recreated and repopulated with creature, and also with the pre-Adamic man that was created in 126 through 28. The races and formed as couples. All of that is located there, and it's only when you have understanding about what we're talking about that you can make sense of those verses and how it is indicative of all these things that we're saying. But we are almost to break, so we'll pick it up on the other side. And thank you for your question. I do hope that in finding this answer that you'll seek further, because in my books I do provide all the sources for you to go and study these things for yourself and to read them in context and in their original manuscripts. All right, so we'll be right back, everyone.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
On May 26 through 28, 2023, Sacred Word Revealed comes to Atlanta, Georgia.
Purpose to unveil esoteric controversies. Conflicts abound in this final generation.
After many millennia of deceptive propaganda replacing truth, that's why we must join together as a remnant to sharpen one another as iron sharpeneth iron.
To test all things and to declare together openly, the Messiah is Adonai.
Get your tickets now at sacredwordrevealed.com and join us for another exciting, rejuvenating, and challenging weekend of worship, fellowship, and discussion with the truth-seeking community.
When Justin and I found out we were having a little girl, we named her Eliana and started dreaming of what life would be like with her, where we would take her, what we would teach her, and of course, what we would read to her. One day we walked around a bookstore looking for books we might want for her and found nothing. So we started brainstorming what exactly we would want. Even from a young age, we wanted her to know and understand the heart of God and hidden truths that are in ancient biblical manuscripts like the Book of Enoch, and the idea of the Prophecy for Children series was born. Justin got hard to work and praise Yah released the Prophecy for Children series. We are grateful for the support and amazing feedback from others who have been wanting the same for their children. With our newest addition to the family, Ezra, we also added Enoch's Judgment of the Giants to this prophecy series. We're excited to keep writing books for our children to share with our truth-seeking family. To order these books today, please check out sacredwordpublishing.com/collections/children's-store.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
right, welcome back, everybody, for a second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen here on Revelation Radio, and I'm joined by my son, Justin James. We are doing the Ask Me Anything show, which is the 75th episode, which is absolutely mind-blowing. But thank all of you for joining us and for continuing to send in these awesome questions, and for us to be able to share this way and not have to answer or respond in email, which is so time consuming and really impossible. So thank you for joining us on this platform. Justin?
Yep, thank you all so much. It's always a blessing. So it is that time of the Ask Me Anything with Zen series where we do our book giveaway. So I'm really excited. If you are new, if this is your first time, I'll explain how it works real quick. I'm just going to ask a quiz question, and the first person to type the correct answer into the chat will get a free copy of a book of Zen's choice. So I will ask the question, and the first person to give the correct answer will get a free copy of a book of Zen's choice. So with that said, the question is, in the book of Revelation, chapter 14, John's vision begins with a lamb standing on Mount Zion. The question is, who was standing there with him? Say that again. In the beginning of Revelation, chapter 14, the vision of John begins with him seeing a lamb standing on Mount Zion. Who was standing there with him? So while we wait for the answers to come in, Dad, would you like to decide which book you would like to give away and why?
Yes, I think it would be appropriate for us to give the Archico volume because it not only came up this evening, but I think that it is a wonderful blessing, especially to people that have never heard of it, which it seems that most people don't know about it, and I know when I read it, it was deeply moving, and so I hope that when people read it and study it in the winter here, will also be deeply moved and affected by its work.
Excellent. Before we get to the answer, I want to give a shout out to Aleko. Thank you very much for your support and the super chat. Now let's go down and look for the answers. We have Moses, Michael, Moses, and I see the correct answer comes from Sherry Poppin, the 144,000. That is correct. Congratulations. And I'll read it real quick. Revelation 14:1 says, "Then I looked, and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written on their forehead." So congratulations, Sherry. If you could email us at sacredwordpublishingllc@gmail.com with your address, I will make sure that we get that one sent over to you. Congratulations, and thank you, everybody, for participating in the giveaway. So let's go back over to the questions. I think we were done with the hole in the ocean question, right?
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to the next question that comes from KJM. In your book cover of Paradise, Sides of the North and Mount of Congregation, there's a picture of the mountain at the North Pole, as it perhaps would be in reality. Since we now have powerful telescopes that can look deeper into the sky, has anyone recently photographed the North Pole mountains that I believe Jesus was taken to be tempted by Satan in Matthew 4:8-10, and it would be where Adam and Eve were created on the recreated earth?
That is all absolutely correct, and it is something that I cover and speak about in great detail in that book, Paradise, Sides of the North, and the Mount of the Congregation, which I think it was my 19th book, the third one of the Flat Earth trilogy, as I said. But with regard to the telescopes, that's a really good question. And from what I understand of the North Pole is that we're not really given access there, that you're not even allowed to fly over that region, that area, and for whatever reason, what is physically there is covered up and remains a secret. And I think that perhaps if one was to truly attempt in the same way that the outer perimeter of the Antarctic past the ice wall is protected and that people are not allowed to venture into those regions, that we would find the same thing, that the elites of the world are monitoring and also keeping, uh, you know, and hoarding the knowledge and the evidence of what's there. And so I don't know how far a telescope can actually see. And if somebody has access to one that, would look down upon the earth for, like, for instance, the one of those satellites held up by weather balloons or whatever technology, like the Starlink that is being used um, to by the people that Elon Musk is helping in Ukraine. Uh, I don't know how all that works, and if somebody can look down, but I would be, I would love to have somebody that has that capacity to send me photos of what they see there at the north. I would love to have, just uh, photographic evidence or, so-called satellite imagery or whatever they're using to get high altitude, um, as far as the landscape of the earth and looking down upon it. I would love to know what is there, and if what I've written in great detail about in that book, if it is all still like that, as is described by the historical explorers that have been able to go to and have reached that region before it, the climate has changed now since those times. And we see even now a gradual warming, and a lot of things that were covered over by permafrost are now being revealed again. And there are ancient cities and artifacts, even in Antarctica, covered over by ice. And so I would be, uh, yeah, truly intrigued to learn more. And if somebody has that capacity, I would love that if they could reveal to the public, what's going on up there, what they see. That would be most awesome. But nobody I know has such ability. And as far as what's going on with the elites that control the data and have, that kind of technology, they're not releasing anything that shows or pictures or gives us an idea of the true topography of that area. And it also makes me wonder if it is, um, even though we do have, the Invencio Fortunata, that 14th century book, which describes the even the encounter of sailors with the Rupus Negra, and even Odysseus is a eyewitness account to this particular area. Um, if it's somehow like the where the Wonder Woman, in that whole um, belief, how in that movie Wonder Woman they lived in an area which was protected and not really seen or witnessed by the reality of the other people that were living around them, or the people that were in, the civilized world, that they were held apart and somehow their world was cloaked. It makes me wonder if there's a situation like that going on, where, the higher spectrum of light wave or amplitude or frequency, I don't know. I don't know what would actually be seen or felt or witnessed there, but without a doubt, Gerardus Mercator, in describing in the ancient maps that particular area of the world, that particular region, he describes it in the manner that I share in that book, Paradise, in the sides of the north and the Mount of the Congregation. So I feel like if we were to get photos, that it would confirm this particular scenario as far as what exists up there. But again, that's just my opinion.
I would definitely be interested in seeing that myself. Before we move to the
Yes.
next question, I want to give a shout out to Brick. Thank you so much for your support in the super chat. Didn't say anything in the super chat. He just made a donation. But thank you, Brother Brick, for being part of the family here. It's a great,
We love you, Brick.
great time. So let's move on to the next one that comes from Teresa. I think of the true meaning behind the dressings of fig leaves and the skins. Can you elaborate on this?
Yes, and I have done this as well in the Great Contest 2, the enmity between the seedlines, where I explain the fall of humanity. In the Great Contest 1, that is the war in heaven, and how, we basically went from our pre-existence into mortal embodiment, and it had to do with the fall of our ancestors, Adam and Eve, and how they lost what was called their bright nature, their glorified form. That when they were first created, they were immortal in aspect. And we see that Adam was a special kind of creation, that Eve was taken from his side, which in the scriptures, if you really look and examine it, is said to be the 13th rib, that Adam's 13th rib was removed to create and to form the woman to be his helpmate. And they were not under the authority of death. They were in paradise in the Garden of God, where New Jerusalem is located, and where the Most High and even the Word of the Lord walk in the cool of the day, as they explain and speak about in the scriptures, especially in the Targum. And it wasn't until they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that they were placed under the authority of death and took on mortal embodiment. And they lost their bright nature, and their genitalia actually was formed, and then Eve was, as it says in the word, that she was beguiled by the serpent, which that it means wholly seduced. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, we are shown that Eve was sexually corrupted by the serpent and impregnated with Cain, who was the firstborn of the wicked one. And we see that Adam, in repeating the act and eating of the fruit himself, that he repeated the act of lovemaking with Eve and impregnated her with Abel. And that's why we see the results and the prophecy that the Most High gives us in Genesis 3:15, 3:16, and 3:17, that it has to do with there's going to be enmity between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. And Eve, she is going to, because she ate this fruit, is going to bear children in sorrow. So that tells you that the results of her eating this fruit is that she became pregnant. And then Adam would have to work the soil in order to provide sustenance and to feed his family once they are in mortal form. And so these punishments are prophetic to what is going to happen now that they've eaten of this fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And also remember that they tried to hide themselves from Yahuwah and the word of the Lord. And in the Targum, it makes it clear that it's meaningless for them to try to hide themselves from God because he is all knowing and omnipotent. He's going to know even what they're doing in darkness. And that point is very elaborated upon in the Targum, but it's not very clear in the King James. But anyways, and so immediately after this action, they cover up their genitals with fig leaves. And so, without a doubt, whatever the eating of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil was, which in my opinion it was of a sexual nature, and that's why they covered up their genitals, because they had experienced and been involved in an act of sexual nature to where they became aware of their genitals, and also to what the Most High had warned them about, to not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which when you look at that word eat in the Hebrew, I believe it's the word akal, and it means it can mean to lie with a woman as well as to consume and all that kind of stuff. But I share all that in the Great Contest too. And so, yes, that's what happened. They were transformed in the mortal embodiment. And then, because they were in a fallen state now, the Most High put the cherubim in place to protect the tree of life so that they wouldn't eat of it. Because if they ate of the tree of life while being in a fallen form, they could not be redeemed. And that's why they were removed from paradise, placed here on the earth where the other fallen angels had already previously been banished from the heavens too, on the second day. Satan and Legion, they were already cast out, and they were under the authority of death themselves, which is why it tells us in Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 that they would die the death of a man. Satan would die the death of a man. So yes, if you want to know more and you want all the details, all the sources for this timeline and scenario, look to the Great Contest 2, the enmity between the seed lines, because it explains it in great detail. And I parallel the accounts beginning with Genesis 3, 4, and 5 from the Septuagint, the Targum, the King James, and we go chapter by chapter, verse by verse, look at the Hebrew to bring out all the deeper meaning. And without a doubt, you can glean and discern in this manner what you understand what's going on.
Okay, thank you for that answer. We have 2 more questions left from the pre-made list, and then we will get into questions from the live chat. If you do have a question for Zen, please do write it in the chat, and make sure you put a question in all caps at the beginning so I can see in between all of the debate and everything that's going on in the chat right now that the question is directed for Zen. All right, so this one comes from Jorge or George. When we're in heaven, will we recover the memories we lost after we drank from the cup of forgetfulness before entering this realm?
I do believe so. And the reason I say this is because even when you look at the experiences of even the saints and the prophets when they return from having a near-death experience, and if you want to know more about what I'm talking about, you can read our book on the medieval Irish Apocrypha, because there's many books that are basically accounts of near death where they come back in much the same way that the story of the Apostle of Thomas, the act of the Apostle Thomas, tells the story of the Indian, the king that comes back to life and tells his brother about Thomas establishing him a mansion in heaven when he wanted him to build a palace on the earth for him. But anyways, that's a same kind of story. But when you look at all the detail and all the story of the near-death experiences, it gives us, the detail on this information. Uh, read me the question one more time so I remember exactly
Will we
where I was
recover the
going with this.
memories we lost
Oh,
after we
yes.
drank from the cup of forgetfulness before entering this realm?
Yes, thank you. And so even at the time, like in the vision of Paul, when a person dies, they are brought before the Most High. And we are always told about how your whole life flashes back and you are seeing, every instance of your life. I do believe that when we pass away, and we are no longer connected to our bodies, which are excluded as far as cut off from those memories, even though they are burned to soul, and we do still have remembrance, and we still have moments of deja vu where we remember some of these synchronicities. But yes, I do believe that we're going to have access to all the memories that we've ever had, going back to the very beginning when we were, part of the sons of God, and we were part of the early creation of everything. Because we have always been and always will be, unless you are, numbered with the tares and annihilated and destroyed as if you had never been, like the angels that are going to go through the second death. Um, but otherwise, I do believe that, part of the miracle and the mystery and the majesty of who we are, and also the kingdom of heaven, is going to be in recovering that remembrance and being able to think about and understand where we were in the unfolding of all that time going back into the distant past. And that we're going to learn a lot about even the first world age and how all that went down. Because there's so many things that we see, as a remnant for things that have happened in the past in our age now, that shows that great and incredible things have occurred in our past, and that there was great ages of, you know previous civilizations living here on the earth, and what kind of things did they accomplish. These people, even our ancestors, they lived almost 1,000 years. Adam and Eve grew to be 930 years old. Can you imagine the kind of things that you would learn and come to know in a 900-year lifespan? And the fallen angels, they were living even longer than this. And so the things, the technology, the stories that we're going to gain access to after our lifetimes and after our incarnation are going to be incredible, in my opinion. And you think Star Wars was awesome. Wait till you learn the story of who we are, in the truth of how the Most High established us. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
Okay, last question comes from Mindset. Some time ago, I heard Zen speak of the Arcturian Lake. Not sure of the spelling. Please point me to more information about this.
You can find that information also in Paradise, the Sides of the North, and the Mount of the Congregation. And yes, the Arcturian Lake is a lake that divides the realm of where the righteous live from the realm of where the condemned live. It separates heaven and hell, or paradise and Sheol. And so this lake is also the lake that, when Christ died on the cross and descending down into the depths of Sheol, freed Adam and all of his descendants and took them back up into paradise, they were given over to the archangel Michael, and he baptized them in the Arcturian Lake. And this, lake is outside of the city of God, New Jerusalem, paradise, and the believers are baptized there. before allowed entry into New Jerusalem. And so it's a lake I hope and pray that all of us become familiar with, and that God willing, well, we know that New Jerusalem is coming down here to us, and that it will be here that the saints are with the Most High during the millennial age. So, but yes, you can find more details, even if you just want to know more about that from the vision of Paul. You can just search that particular text, and it will give you great detail on the city of God, New Jerusalem, and the Arcturian Lake um, as it exists there.
Excellent. All right. It is time to get into the live questions. We have 20 questions so far, so we'll get through as many as we can. And if we don't get to them tonight, we will roll them over to the next AMA. So let's get into the first one that comes from The Matrix Squared. What missing books have been found, and what books are still yet to be found, such as Ezra's 70 books?
Well, the Ezra 70 books, some people say that, this is the King James or whatever it is now, the King James. But, I don't know if that is true or not. All I know is that these books were written in the Aramaic, and lots of them are gone and disappeared. Even Enoch was said to have written 366 books. And so there's much information that is missing. But there have been, great caches that have also been discovered. In 1945, the Nag Hammadi codices were all discovered. And in 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls and all of that collection, including, fully extant books of Enoch in the Aramaic. 2 different versions were found, even though the public never saw them, and those translations were quickly disappeared and auctioned off. Even now, we see the Thracian Chronicles and all of that information coming to light for the first time, and we are quickly working to put them into English, so that we can benefit from that knowledge base. And so there's a lot of books that are being rediscovered because people are making a point to try to digitize these materials as they sit in old monasteries. Like even there was these groups of photographers that have gone into the St. Catherine Monastery, and they've discovered a lot of ancient books that nobody else has. In a lot of these places, a lot of these monasteries, a lot of these old churches, these old places that, like even the Vatican archive, they have hundreds of books that we no longer have access to, probably thousands. There's many mentioned in the scriptures themselves. Even in the King James, there's 22 books that are mentioned that we do not have access to. And so, there's a lot of material out there we still have to consider, and a lot of information coming to light. And I can just only hope that as this work progresses, more and more becomes available, because it seems like, we are finding, and there are more collections being released, maybe even every week. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting just how much has come about. Thank you for that one. Next one comes from AMA Inquirer. What does it mean to offer up your sufferings?
What does it mean to offer up your sufferings? And in the case of the Most High, we know that he was the Passover lamb, and that he drank the cup and fulfilled the role and the mission that the Most High gave him in coming into this world. And that was to rectify the fall, to redeem humanity. But in regard to the rest of us, I think that in offering up our suffering, we are doing, and as far as like what Yahushua as Savior Messiah, in enduring the murder and of being put on the cross, um, that we're doing what we can with the sufferings that we are contending with and dealing with in our lifetimes, and that it is through those sufferings that we learn about the ways of God and the kingdom, and also of what it is to be in the flesh, learning through the knowledge and the duality of good and evil, that this is the experience of this world, and that in offering up those sufferings to the Most High, I think that we're, just trying to um, endure in the best way that we can, and that we are learning through these experiences, and that this is kind of a way, almost a prayerful, because look at all the lives of the apostles, how much they were condemned and judged and stoned and beaten and spit upon, and the Messiah, of course, he took the worst of it, in the pain and the suffering that he had to endure for our sake. But of course, that was the greatest story and the greatest commission, and of course, it would take God to fulfill such a commission. But I think we are, called to endure whatever we can, and to do that for the sake of the kingdom as well, because we are in a fallen form, in a fallen world, and our redemption, our salvation is through Christ. And so we learn a little bit and endure a little bit of uh, some of the pain and suffering that he went through in dying for us to redeem us and bring us to forgiveness.
Hallelujah. And next question comes from Facts Not Fiction. Is there a such thing as purgatory?
I think purgatory is just another one of those names. They call it like a holding place, but basically it's like Sheol. It's like the realm of the dead. In Greek, we have Hades, we have the bottomless pit, we have all those different names, Gehenna, perdition, Tartarus. But in my opinion, they are all just different layers and levels of what is the realms of Sheol. And there are said to be 10 realms, in the same way that there are 10 heavens, and that the earth is the meeting place, the union of spirit and matter, and the place where one overlaps upon the other.
All right, next question comes from Dale Stevenson. What is the outer darkness in the book of Jude and Enoch?
In my opinion, that outer darkness is where Sheol is. And it's not out there in space or something of that nature, because we know that the stars that are bound, they were placed into Sheol. And so even the stars that did not come forth in their time, they were bound in the interior of Sheol. The giants were bound in the interior of Sheol. Sheol is the realm of darkness and of legion. Satan rules there. And it is from that area that he wages war against humanity. Because again, we are in the middle ground. We have the influence of heaven above and Sheol below, and they are waging war over the souls of humanity, for eternity and salvation again. And so, yes, Sheol is the outer darkness, um, and that place, the abysmal chasm, the opening to Sheol, is found at the North Pole.
Okay, next question comes from Donna. Question: What's your knowledge on suicide? A recent brother of a friend approximately committed suicide, and I just want your help.
Well, first I send my condolence to you for anybody that has to um, eh, endure or overcome or be challenged in this manner. And yes, I'm familiar with this, and don't want to go in really great detail about it. But I would just say that, in my opinion, the Most High considers and does take into account the state of a person's mind and the things that they are undergoing when they decide to commit such action. And that a person that has gone to such lengths to where they feel that this is the only way out, that they are already in a place where they're out of mind and maybe not in touch with reality in a way that um, and if they don't get help, then the outcomes, the results is that people do decide to end their misery and their suffering, and to take um, that decision into their own hands. And I also understand from a point of pain and suffering, and also with just getting old, and a lot of people that have dementia that are losing their minds, and that wake up and they don't realize if it's night or day, if they are supposed to sleep or if they're supposed to wake up, that there's a lot of suffering going on out there in the world. And so like I said, in regard to uh, the people that take such action upon themselves, and that commit, even though yes, we are told that this is a sinful action, that we're not supposed to harm ourselves or to uh, commit suicide in any manner, and that the Catholic Church certainly condemns people that have uh, committed such act. Um, I think the Most High is compassionate in a way that we don't understand, and I am not going to lay any kind of judgment on anybody that feels the need or that decides to do, um, and to engage in such action. Uh, we don't know where they were at the time that they did these things. All we can do is have compassion and pray for them. I think that we should daily pray for those that have gone on, and especially because we're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of the Most High in living in our lives and trying to endure the pain and the suffering of just growing old, aging, and debilitating over time. And yeah, it can be a challenge to endure and to try to continue and to go on. I'm sure that many of you are also suffering with whatever it is that is challenging you in your own day. And sometimes it seems overwhelming, especially if, all of a sudden we wake up and the EMP has gone off, and, we find ourselves immersed in World War III. And I mean, yeah, those kind of things will be challenging. I mean, where are we going to be? What kind of mindset are we going to be when things like that go down? When life is already such a struggle, people are having a difficult time just finding enough to feed themselves and their families, or to hold a job so they can make enough money to not have, themselves foreclosed on. I mean, these are challenging times, and so let us just be compassionate and pray for those that have gone on before us. And it does say, and I do believe without a doubt, that the prayers of saints and the prayers of just people in general, they have a great effect and an influence on the Most High, because he is compassionate, he is long suffering, and he doesn't want any of his children to fail or fall short. He wants all of us to be with him in paradise. And so that is my belief on that.
Thank you. Next question comes from DJ. Zen, are there any ancient texts you've studied talk or that talk or tell about the astrological influences of the planets? And did the Messiah ever teach about them?
Not that I have seen with regard to the Messiah on teaching on this, but yes, there is the Chronicles of Jeremiah. In chapter 5, it speaks about the influence of the planets after they were made on the fourth day, and the sun and the moon are included as planets, as wandering stars, because they move and they have their own cycle. And there is also in the what is the is it the Sefer Yetzirah? I believe it's, but I can't remember. But I do write a lot about this in the firmament, vaulted dome of the earth, because in that book I break down not only the courses of the great luminary and the lesser luminary of the sun and the moon, but I also speak about the cycles of the wandering stars and their influences, and what is said to be their influences, as not only the Maseroth, as we covered with the brother just recently on our show, which he did such a great job in sharing the information on the Maseroth, but Abraham was taught the influences of the stars, and even Adam, he was given 5 books before he was removed from paradise. One of those was the Book of the Signs, another the Book of the Wars of the Lord, the Book of the Generations of Man, and the book on the courses of the heavenly luminaries as well. These kind of things were part of what we see even in the legacy of the Book of Enoch, of the information that was passed on from Adam to Enoch, and which Enoch then gave over to Noah, and Noah passed on to Shem and Abraham and Jacob and Joseph and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, that the Chronicles of Jeremiah start there. And if you want to know more of the firmament, vaulted dome of the earth.
Awesome. Thank you for that one. Next question comes from Jalen. If you see luminaries flying through the sky, how do you know if they're good or bad?
I think that, if you are seeing UFO and UFO activity, that it's either one, military, or could have something to do with the fallen angels. And the only reason I say that is because what people report of their encounters with UFO technology and the luminaries, if you're talking about, this particular phenomena, or if you're talking about the luminaries as far as the stars in the sky, which I think you're speaking more about the phenomena of, UFO and lights in the sky, that we really don't know. But I think that those things that we are experiencing will be more demonic, as far as the abductions and that kind of experience. And also your body will let you know. The Holy Spirit will, your conscience will tell you whether something is of good or evil. you'll know by your feeling and by your senses uh, whether something, because you get that feeling. You get a feeling whether something is good or bad, and whether you need to run or flight or fight or flight. And so um, it and also in every experience, as far as the prophets in their witness of angels, even though it was a frightening experience from them, it wasn't fearful. They were quickly uh, brought to calm, and they were quickly informed of the angels being of the Most High, and that they were there on behest of something that the Most High, and they felt a sense of peace and love in those moments. So I do feel that we're going to know the difference, and you have to rely on your senses to let you know, because we are inherently given, the Holy Spirit is within us, and it is that conscious to let us know when, even when we're committing an act of good or evil, it lets us know. And in similar circumstance, when we have outside influence of good or evil, that same, the Holy Spirit within us will let us know and give us discernment.
Next question is also from Jalen. If one turns off its bright light and you know what you're seeing is something you can't fathom, what do you do?
If one turns off your bright light,
I guess if
and
turn off your lights and then you see something like a ghost or something like that. I don't know.
Or a UFO or something, maybe. Again, I think you'll know because the spidey senses will be going off. The Holy Spirit inside you will be telling you to either get out of there, run, or drive away. But also, I think a lot has to do uh, with people being believers, and that the believers are going to be protected wherever they may be, and that darkness and the influence of darkness is not allowed to overcome or to engage in the lives of certain people that are under the protection of the Most High. And so, if you really don't want to encounter anything occultic or anything supernatural like that, just do your work, get on your knees and confess your sins, repent, uh, ask the Messiah to come into your heart, be your King and Lord. You'll be protected. You won't have to worry about those kind of things.
Yeah, interestingly, whenever I walk into Ella's room at night, I always have that shocking fear come in me. I think there's an angel protecting her room. I just have to give praise to the Most High, and then everything calms down.
Absolutely.
It's really
because
it's cool.
I have seen those videos of and there's a lot of that now, that kind of demonic activity, especially people that have been involved in the occult or playing with
I'm not talking about demonic stuff. I'm talking about protection.
Protection.
A holy angel is protecting my daughter, not a demon.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm not talking about Eliana, but I'm talking about other people that don't have that protection, that they would be fearful of, something messing with and attacking their children, because that kind of stuff does happen. But yes, I know our family, that we're under the grace of the Most High, and that we've dedicated our entire lives to serving Him. And so, yes, I know without a doubt we are protected in that manner. But for those that aren't, I really pray and feel for them.
Next question, probably the one that will take us to the end of the show, comes from Karmic Dissuasion. Where is the Bitcoin rally? How low will it go? To 12K?
I think that we're going to stabilize here. And even if we go to 12K, I don't think that it's going to be long lived. I do believe, and even just recently, we've seen, according to the MACD and also to the RSI, that momentum seems to be shifting upward. And if the trend is reversing, and we're seeing, the RSI, the relative strength index, and also the stochastic, the orange line going above the blue, then that indicates a shift in momentum. Now, of course, nobody knows for sure because still there's so much insanity going on with like FTX and other things. But I do believe just keep dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, Ethereum, only those things that are, as far as that will endure. Certainly, this is going to be a shakeout, but as far as the adoption of cryptocurrencies, they're not going to disappear, and we are reaching what will be, the last of the halvings for Bitcoin. We're almost at 21 million minted, and once we reach that stage, there's no more that's going to be mined, and then whatever is out there, people are going to have to, bid on and contest over what is already available. And so it's my opinion that cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, that they are going to find greater adoption, and that people will want to use them because they can hold and store wealth in something that they don't have to carry, as far as like gold or silver, and that you can cross borders with and not have to worry about being robbed. Or, of course, you have to keep your private keys and all of that, and that, you have to be careful in that manner. But digital currencies offer you a way to diversify, to shift your wealth, and to carry it across borders, or to send it instantly to people in different parts of the world. I mean, the use case for such a thing greater outweighs what people see, the negatives. And I think there are those of us like myself that realize that this is going to be part of the future, and that Bitcoin especially has a use case and a population of believers behind it already that will see it only propel upward and onward in price the more scarce it becomes, and the more people get involved in buying it and keeping it. Just my opinion. But yes, dollar cost averaging, people, that's the way.
Yeah, all right. Well, that brings us to the end of the 75th Ask Me Anything. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in and for all your questions. Last question from Cecil: how can I get my questions answered? If you ask a question here, we will add it to the pre-made list for next month's show. And if you join next month and you ask your question, we'll put it on the list for live questions. So we still do have 15 live questions that we didn't get to tonight, so we will roll these over to next month's show. So thank you for all the answers. Thank you for all the questions. And hallelujah, it's so great to be with a family of believers who understand the truth of the Messiah's life, death, and resurrection.
Amen. We love you all. Be blessed, and happy. Hope you have a good new year, that all of you are blessed and protected by the Most High. Until tomorrow, be loved and be blessed. Love y'all. Good night.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you, and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.